Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Now ladies and gentlemen, I'm not telling you to get rid of your electric car. I'm not telling you not to buy one. But I just want to give you someone's point of view that purchased an electric vehicle so that they can save money. I want to show you all of the hidden costs. One cost that most people, I'm pretty sure, don't think about. I swapped my diesel for an EV. But the numbers don't add up. My regular 350 mile trip went from 50 pound to nearly 90. And there are other hidden costs that this person's probably not pointing out. He's just pointing out the amount that it increased in order for him to drive a certain number of miles. And I'm going to cover a couple of those with you that I think are very important for people to know who are on the EV bandwagon and or want to buy an electric vehicle. And if you have an electric vehicle, bless you. If you like it, if you can afford to drive it, if you can afford to wait the wait times for it to charge, that's great. I think that the free market is the best thing that there can be for freedom. When there is freedom, people prosper. So if you like your electric vehicles, by all means, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to read this little story for you, because it's somewhat entertaining, and then I'm going to follow it up with a very unbiased short article about electric vehicles and how they compare to internal combustion engine vehicles as far as a carbon footprint. Right? And then I'm going to bring it up with something that many people don't think about. Ladies and gentlemen, you can now build your own 6-can bundle of Nutrient Survival number 10 cans. Until midnight on Sunday, the 22nd of January, 2023, Nutrient Survival has a 20% off sale on any bundle of any 6 cans on their site. And during checkout, you will see that 20% was taken off the total purchase price. Nutrient Survival is rolling this out with the AP community first, and they have issued me a special link, and the link is in the description of this video. A man who swapped his diesel BMW for an electric Volvo has said the running cost numbers don't add up. Well, they do add up, just not in his favor. Stephen drove his EV on a 350-mile round trip between Cornwall and Bristol, but it cost him more money than using his 19-year-old diesel BMW. He said the trip usually cost around 50 pounds at today's diesel prices, assuming 55 miles per hour and at 1.73 pound a liter, which is the price at my nearest gas station, he says. This time, Stephen was driving a Volvo C40 and he splashed out 88 pound 7p, I believe is how you pronounce it, for the same round trip. He said that all in all, I felt relieved to get home, but also like someone had emptied my wallet while I wasn't looking. He also said that the long trip in the EV was just too stressful. It's just like you're running out of, you feel like you're not going to make it to where you're going. I'm not talking from personal experience, but I can just feel, have you ever had your car, the gas light turn on your vehicle? Which means that you're kind of like on reserve fuel for your vehicle. And you know that the owner's manual tells you, all right, if the light turns on, you have 30 miles left before you run out of gas. But the entire time that light is on, you're just like, please don't run out of gas. Now that's happened to me. Please don't run out of gas before I get to the gas station. And by the way, that happened to me a long time ago. I keep my tank topped off at least 3/4. I go ahead and top it off. I think that's a good practice that everyone should do. He also said that the long trip in the EV was just too stressful. The whole day had been a bit of a brain melt, in all honesty, constantly working out how far I could travel and where the best place to stop were on both legs of the journey. He started his journey at 8 a.m. with the vehicle fully charged at home, which cost him around 20 pounds. Despite the battery showing 100%, when I was ready to set off, he says, I still had 180 miles showing for actual range when compared to a theoretical 273 miles that the Volvo claims that a full battery will give you. So in theory, I had barely enough for the 175-mile trip. Stephen took his first charging break at this service station on the M5 after traveling for about an hour and 45 minutes. He arrived there with 25% left on his charge and still with 45 miles to go. He waited 40 minutes for the battery to charge to 60%, which cost him £19.62 for another 55 miles. Unfortunately, he arrived at Bristol 30 minutes later than usual at 11 a.m. with a 35% charge on a 60-mile range. Now, you have to, when you're in a vehicle that's electric like this, I'm just assuming that you always have that number in your mind. You're always thinking, where am I going to stop next before I run out of battery? You know, what am I going to do? Because if you run out of battery in an electric vehicle and you're stranded by the side of the road, it's not as easy as just, you know, getting someone to give you a ride to a gas station, you know, filling up a gallon or 5 gallons of diesel or gasoline, whatever your vehicle uses, and bringing it back and pouring it in. You're going to have to figure out a way, how are you going to charge that right there? And if, let's say, for example, that you travel with a small generator, let's say a small 2200 watt Honda in the back of your vehicle with a full tank of gas, it's going to take forever for that generator to power your vehicle so that you can get to the next gas station. When I mean forever, I mean it's probably going to take hours, you know, if not an hour or more for it to get you to the next gas station, depending on how far it is. Or charge station, not gas station. And here they say the motorist charged his car very slowly with a 3-pin plug at a relative's house and added 30 miles in 7 hours. This was cheaper, costing him only $5. At 6:45 p.m., he began heading back to Cornwall on a 52% charge and 90-mile range. Stephen started to stress out about the car's range as he made plans to stop at a service station which charges vehicles, which was 75 miles away, to use their super fast chargers. He said, quote, "This was going to be tight, but I was determined to make it, rather than potentially having to stop twice on the way home. I knew the supercharger would sort me out if I could get there. And man, the next hour or so was stressful. I arrived just at Exeter with 7% charge and only 14 miles range showing." He says, "I have to admit that the 20 minutes or so before arriving there was not a pleasant feeling, as the range seemingly got tighter and tighter. Fortunately, he managed to charge his car in 45 minutes, which brought it up to 84% charge and a 140-mile range. Shockingly, the quick charge cost him $43.45 or £43.45. And here they finish it off saying, after a long and tiring day, he arrived home at 10:20 p.m., 50 minutes later than usual, with 25 miles remaining and 16% battery. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before we go on to the next topic that we're going to talk about, what are additional costs that it's costing this gentleman to charge his vehicle? Obviously, here he's stating that it's costing him more in actual currency or fiat currency to charge his vehicle to travel the same amount of miles that he was traveling before with an internal combustion engine. Well, take a look right here. He stopped once 40 minutes to charge his battery just at 60% full, right? That's 40 minutes. And then take a look at this. He charged his car for 45 minutes to get it up to 84% full. Okay, so we have 40 minutes and 45 minutes. That's an hour and 25 minutes of charging vehicles out of his day. That's not to include the 7 hours that he was charging it at his relative's home, and we won't even count that, right? But you can say easily, if you count what it would have taken him to charge the vehicle for that 7 hours, let's say like at a supercharger, let's say altogether that day he spent 2 hours charging his vehicle. 2 hours. Had he gone to a gas station and had an internal combustion engine vehicle, he would have been able to fill up his vehicle once on his way out, and he would have probably been able to make it all the way home without filling up, you know, pretty close to empty, if not to like a quarter tank of gas, and wouldn't have to spend any time. But let's say that he spent 10 minutes at a gas station on his way out, and then let's say he spent 10 minutes on a gas station on his way back. That's 20 minutes in order to fuel his vehicle, as opposed to about 2 hours. How much is your time worth? That's one question that I haven't heard too many people ask themselves. How much is my time worth to be standing at a charging station for 45 minutes? And how much is my health worth to be stressed out all the time when I'm on a trip trying to figure out, am I going to make it to this next one? Am I going to make it to this next one? Because you just don't know if the reliability of that battery in that vehicle, as stated in the owner's manual, is actually going to play through and give you the range that it says it will give you. In addition to that, I'm not sure if during this last big freeze that we had in the lower 48, you all noticed that a lot of people were complaining that their electric vehicles were not charging because it was too cold. There's so many things with electric vehicles that's really not a pro, but a con, that I can't see how it's going to be able to be rolled out the way that they want it rolled out. And when I say they, I mean the clowns up on Capitol Hill and in your prospective governments. I don't see how they're going to be able to be rolled out and be efficient enough where people are actually going to want to adapt that system of travel over the one that we have now, that we've had for years, decades, 100 years. Now, am I saying that the technology may not improve to the point where it will be great? Am I saying that the technology may not improve to the point where it could become commonplace in your driveway, in your garage? I'm not saying that, because technology is always evolving, and human beings, we're very intelligent for the most part, and we can adapt to certain situations and come up with different ways to solve a problem. However, it's not here yet, and it's not going to be here by 2030, and I don't believe it will be here by 2045. It's going to take a long time for this technology to evolve in a way that it can be used as commonplace. And that's not talking about all of the other concerns about how do we get the raw material that we need in order to build these batteries, in order to build these vehicles. I want to share with you this very unbiased article about someone that's comparing the carbon footprint, which, you know, that's what they're using, carbon, right? Carbon is the big devil, even though you need it to live. But anyways, this person is sharing the carbon footprint compared from an electric vehicle to a gas vehicle. And listen, I'm not trying to sway you either way. I have my own opinion on this green energy stuff. I have my own opinion, but I'm not really putting my opinion into this so far. If you've noticed, I've just given you some things that you can talk about and do your own research and think, is it really worth it? The carbon footprint of electric cars versus gasoline. Do electric cars produce emissions? Yes, they do. Though an electric car does not produce any tailpipe emission, that doesn't mean that it is not responsible for any emissions at all. Manufacturing CO2 emissions of electric cars versus gasoline. According to scientists, okay, for those of you that want to follow the science, according to scientists, the emissions may be between 15 and 68% greater when manufacturing an electric car. 15 to 68%. That's a pretty big span, but I guess it depends on what kind of a vehicle you're talking about. Like, for example, I'm sure it takes a little less emissions to manufacture a Tesla as compared to a Hummer, an electric Humvee, right? So maybe that's why the range is so wide. The energy source. A lot of people don't consider the energy source. I remember this congresswoman talking about when that Keystone Pipeline thing, no, not the Keystone Pipeline, when that pipeline got hacked from Texas to the East Coast and we were having some gas shortages in that area. I remember this congresswoman in Congress saying, I didn't have any problem getting here because I didn't need gas. I just charged my electric car. Not realizing that most of the energy that is used to charge an electric car comes from fossil fuels, i.e. liquid or gas, petroleum, natural gas, etc. All right. In many cases, it's produced from oil or coal. And yes, those are the two biggest, well, not oil or coal. Oil is a very small part of producing electricity, but coal and natural gas are the biggest components in producing the electricity that we use here in the United States of America. All right, I'm not sure how it is over in England. And that means large amounts of emissions. Now, granted, I don't think that any of these CO2 emissions are bad for the planet. Again, ask yourselves, what do plants eat and what do you eat? Is there a correlation there that if plants don't eat, maybe you can't eat? And the better that they eat, maybe the better that the world eats? Anyways, battery recycling. You can't recover much more than 20% of the materials in the battery. And they need recycling a lot once they drop below 70 to 80% capacity. In general, they are no use to a car anymore once they drop below that capacity. But there is good news to the battery recycling. They can often be repurposed, which is a good thing, but eventually they will have to be recycled and be used with solar PV systems instead, right? And that was it. That was I didn't read the final thoughts. I just wanted to keep it as unbiased as possible from this. And I think this is a great article. By the way, I'll go ahead and leave it in the link of the description of this video. Not the description, a pinned comment. And here, ladies and gentlemen, is something that a lot of people don't think about. Remember what I've often talked about when I talk about 401ks? One of the reasons I don't like 401ks and I'm not in favor for them is because when you sign up for them, everything may seem rosy. Everything may seem great, but the government can always change laws. And check this out. Some states have taxes for EVs and hybrid cars, and customers aren't happy. And they shouldn't be, because now the states are realizing, hey, these customers here that switched over to EV or hybrid, they're spending less money on gasoline and diesel. And now we're collecting less taxes from them because they don't have to spend money on gasoline or diesel. However, you know, they could probably put a tax on electricity now so that they can pay their fair share. And this is just a small bit of some states that have imposed taxes on electric vehicles. According to the National Conference of State Legislatures, a total of 30 states, ladies and gentlemen, that's more than half the country. A total of 30 states have laws that require a fee to use plug-in electric cars. So now you have to pay a fee. When these things first came out, when these electric cars and hybrids first came out, if you're an owner of one and if you own one when they first came out, were you paying a fee? Probably not, but now you are. Of the 30 states, 14 have a fee on plug-in hybrid vehicles. The fee ranges from $50 a year and as high as $225 a year. But AP, $50 a year is not that much. That's not that much. Ladies and gentlemen, once the camel gets its nose in the tent, eventually the entire camel will be in the tent. When they started taxing United States citizens here in this great nation, it was at a 1% tax rate. What is it now? Just take a look for yourselves. All right, and also Idaho moved to create a 2.5 cent per mile fee that drivers can pay instead of the annual fee. So ladies and gentlemen, these are some of the things that people don't think about when they look at the green movement. It is the collateral damage that's happening behind the scenes, or not necessarily collateral damage, but remember how I talked about the first, second, third order effects? These are the second, third, fourth order effects of you having an electric vehicle and advocating by voting for representatives that want to make everyone switch to electricity. And that's not the only thing either. We talk about electricity, right? What's going to happen when you want to charge your vehicle, but there is no electricity because we're having brownouts or blackouts? What's going to happen when you want to charge your vehicle, but as many states are finding this out now, the electric rates have doubled? Some people's electric rates have doubled. I received an email here not too long ago, I think 3 days ago or so, from one of our community members that said, hey, they just told me that my electric rate is going to go up, I think it was 86 or 84% next month. What's going to happen when that happens and you're already stuck with that electric vehicle? Are you going to sell it and get something else? Or are you going to have a backup gas vehicle? Then why even bother getting the electric vehicle? Having said that, I probably made this video way too long. Again, go check out Nutrient Survival, where you can build your own bundle up to Sunday night at midnight. Tomorrow night at midnight, you'll get 20% off if you go in there and build your own bundle. So go take advantage of this awesome deal. Thank you very much, Nutrient Survival, for doing this for the AP community. The link is in the description of this video. Have a great day and God bless you all.